Welcome to the Siege Report, the weekly podcast for everything that's happening in Rainbow Six Siege. I'm Icy Cat, and today we have lots to talk about with all the recent huge changes that have been going on. As always, we have a special guest to share their unique perspectives with us. And here to introduce that guest is my co-host, Nukem Dukem.
Thank you, Icy Cat. Yes, I am dressed up for the, paying my respects for the map removal. But anyway, yes, first off, I want to congrats Icy Cat on reaching 200,000 subscribers. And we got an awesome guest today. I actually like his videos for his strategic mind, where you can, he gives you different options of what could happen, what couldn't happen. And it's my honor to introduce Get Flanked.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on again. Thanks. I'm really honored to be here. And Icy Cat, congrats on the 200,000. Well deserved, man. I'm Get Flanked, like you said there. I make some YouTube videos. I'm a Rainbow Six Siege addict, first and foremost. But yeah, I make videos, some of which are tips, some are commentaries. I'm always stating my opinion. And yeah, really enjoying the game and enjoy making content for it.
Very cool. So I'm kind of curious, what made you get started on YouTube, and has it been surprised of just the amount of support you've been getting through it?
Well, I got started pretty much like every other YouTuber in Call of Duty, and I was primarily focused on search and destroy videos, and I started making those videos because there wasn't a ton out there as far as search and destroy tips. So I started making some just very general tips and stuff for search and destroy, and got a little bit of a following through Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and then Infinite Warfare came out, and I was still doing my search and destroy tips, and I didn't really like that game. I'd been playing Rainbow Six Siege casually throughout the beta and the entire life cycle, but once I stopped playing Infinite Warfare, which was very shortly after it was released, I really focused on Rainbow Six Siege and just started making content for that. And the support that I've received through Rainbow Six Siege has just been incredible. I mean, it's so crazy how many people love this game as much as we all do here and are seeking out information for it. So yeah, that's kind of my story there on how I got to where I am now.
I've really enjoyed watching some of your content because you do a variety of things. Like, a lot of YouTubers will get typecast into one role or another. Like, they're known for a very specific kind of thing. But you have some interesting variety on your channel and what you bring to it. Like, you have your podcast, The Pro and the Potato, that you do, which is an interesting thing. And then one thing that I really enjoyed, a series that you did, was what did you call it? How would you, or would you?
What would you do?
What would you do? Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of taking a situation where you actually pause your gameplay and say, this is a situation I'm faced with, and here's some possibilities, and then really breaking it down and trying to figure out how would you approach this, and then going over what you actually did and why it turned out the way it did, is such an interesting thing to bring to the community. I'm just curious. I really haven't seen too many other people do anything like that. What was sort of your inception for that?
Well, whenever I started making more Rainbow Six Siege content, one thing I noticed from the community was how many people love to provide their input. So you might make a gameplay video and put it on YouTube, and it might just be you talking about something that has to do with the game, but you'll find people in the comments will pick apart your gameplay and say what you did right and wrong. Sometimes it can be kind of annoying as us content creators, but I took that and I realized, well, people love critiquing your gameplay, so why not just make a video series where you show them a situation and talk about different possible outcomes so you can get different perspectives. The biggest thing I think all of us can do to be better players is have different perspectives and different sets of tools that we can pull out in every situation in the game. So I think that's maybe the big inspiration for that What Would You Do series, just trying to get people a different mindset and different perspectives that'll help them in situations. A lot of the tips you see on YouTube are very specific, on this map, on this objective, go here. But if you can give somebody a mindset, then they can pull from that at any time throughout the game, and that's what's really going to make them a better player.
I have an interesting question. Is this your first time doing a face cam on anything?
No.
Okay. I was like, this is the world's
first
face cam we do.
I don't do face cam very often, but I have done it in the past on some videos that required that kind of interaction.
Yeah, very good. So this week we had a lot of new news for Rainbow Six. The maps. We got all the official teaser trailers for the operators, and then we got some gameplay leak about it. So I'll go ahead and toss it over to Icy Cat to kind of debrief us on all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, this has just been a week full of news, right? So, beginning with the operators that we know about. So, we've got Ella and Legion for the defensive operators, as well as Ying for the attacking operator, and the various gadgets that they bring to the table. Of course, for those that don't know, Ella and Legion both have different types of deployable mines. They work a little differently from each other, but they're both mine-based gadgets. And Ying has what's essentially like a flashbang cluster charge as a really simple way of breaking that down. So with those kind of coming into the mix, I'm just curious, like, what are your opinions on like how these things might affect the meta?
Okay.
Well, I think it's very telling that both of the defensive operators are mine-based gadgets. So that would lead you to believe that as an attacker, you're going to have more things to be concerned with, that it might slow down some of the aggressive gameplay that you see. I think the first thing that comes to mind is IQ and Thatcher are both going to get an indirect buff here. I think that Valkyrie is going to get an indirect nerf here because you're going to see the IQ on the board a lot more, and that's the immediate thing that comes to mind for me. I'm interested to see. You can look at the loadout, you can look at the gadget, and you can know everything, but until you see it in the hands of the creative people that we have in this community, you don't really know how it's going to play out. You know, I mean, people are crazy what they come up with.
You know, it's interesting. I actually played 4 hours of Blood Orchid last week, and I felt like I had not enough time to figure out all this new stuff going on. But when I was playing against Legion, it was almost impossible for me to find his stealth cloaking device. It was like smaller than an Echo drone, and it can be attached to walls, to grounds, everywhere. Like, you can't see it coming everywhere. So it feels like you need to like go so slowly moving sides. I feel like the rush is going to be slowed down dramatically. Toss that on top of Ela's mine, where it could be attached to walls, grounds, or above your head. That just sets off immediately. It just is so crazy intense of just like how slowed down. Like, I can't rush with Ash and just kill people, even though I did since I played a bunch press people on first-time players. But for more high competitive play, it's a whole different type of game.
Is his mines lesions, like I said, are they definitely detectable by IQ, like 100%?
I don't know. I did play IQ a couple times, but I just felt so slow because I was looking everywhere and the map is kind of big. From what I was told, IQ should be able to pick it up. But what's interesting about him is that you don't start off with the mines. It's like as time goes on through the game, you get like added to it, and then you can collect up to 7 maximum and just keep throwing them out everywhere for it. So, and it's crazy, once they hit you, your whole screen turns green, like it's a blood splatter on your screen green, and then you just walk so slowly, and you have to hide around some corner to pull it out, or you lose like 10 health every 5 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot stronger than I was thinking.
Right.
Now, it should be noted, too, that we are actually recording this the day before the official Ubisoft reveal. So we're recording on Friday, and then the big reveal is coming Saturday. So by the time you guys watch this, it'll be sort of like a day behind everything else. So, you know, we do need to make our viewers aware of the fact that we are sort of broadcasting from our Magic 8 Ball here right. in some ways.
Yeah, I think it's always fun to speculate. Like, I enjoy this. And thinking about, like, what you're asking about the meta there, I mean, the Ella, are they more similar to like the smokes where you can throw them and have people run into them, or are they going to be like a mine? Like, I kind of got the impression that they were more going to be more used like smoke, where you see somebody coming, you throw them in the way of them, and then they run into them.
Yes, it's very similar to smoke, where I think she starts off with 3 mines, and you can just toss it and it will stick against a wall, ground, or above you, and then it's I think it's proximity. And it goes off. So you could do that. You could save it like a smoke and then toss it, or you can just set them up beforehand, or it's a good retreat mechanism. You know someone's coming after you, you can put it right behind you, so they won't chase you. And when Ella gets down, she has one on top of her, and if they're closer, you can blow it up on yourself to concuss everyone around you. But let's say someone kills you from far, they can still kill you, and they won't get hit by concussive. And you have to manually detonate that concussive mine when you're down.
Interesting. Of course, now, Nukem, you've had a chance to play it. Neither of us have, so we're kind of leaning on you for some of that knowledge.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah, well, thank God the embargo's up. I could talk about it. Just the gameplay embargo's not up besides that leak that came out. But, yeah, it's interesting. But what is interesting is Ying, her attacking ability I didn't put it against a wall to see if it's a fuse cluster, but from what I read in the notes, you can do it like that, or you can time it where it's like a detonate charge where you can time the explosion and toss it under a barricade and try detonate another one. From what I saw, like her ball when she throws it, it's a very small radius, and I don't know if people got blind because it looks small. It's just like a bunch of blue sparkles all around you. And then, I hear my teammates saying they're blind, but I don't see anything since my goggles protect me from the blind. So I don't know, like, if it's just a small animation that looks like that explodes, or it actually like blows up the whole room with it.
Interesting. Well, definitely make sure that we're going to be getting our hands on that and testing those pretty in depth as soon as that's all coming out, which does transition sort of into the next point, is that this content was originally slated to come out a few days after the Gamescom reveal. So it was Tuesday, August 29th. And then they announced that they were going to be delaying things by an extra week. So everybody's going to get it instead on September 5th. And then for those of you that do not have Season Pass, it will be September 12th for access to the operators. But on August 29th, they are going to go ahead and release everything for the Blood Orchid update on the technical test server. So that's kind of an interesting thing where people are getting really upset because they feel like, well, wait a minute, if we have the Season Pass, we get 7-day exclusivity, that's what we're paying for, but then if you have technical test server, you're getting it even in advance of us, and so that's just sort of an interesting thing going on there. What do you think about that?
I understand where they're coming from, a lot of them. I mean, one of my good buddies is on PS4 exclusive, and he has a Season Pass. And whenever I heard it, I was relieved because I thought back to Velvet Shell and that release and how there were a lot of bugs and just it didn't go very smoothly at all. And it was coupled at that time with, I believe, a free weekend. And I remember like playing it at that time and being like, man, this is not a good impression that we're putting out here for the game. But I was relieved. I thought it was good to get those bugs worked out. But I do understand, like, if you're playing on PS4, you don't have access to the TTS unless you have a PC that can run it. And there are going to be people who may have bought the starter edition, never bought a Season Pass, that are going to be playing these operators before you and playing on the new map before you. And especially as a content creator. Can you imagine that? You know what I mean? And there are content creators who are PS4 exclusive. And in fact, this gentleman that I'm mentioning, he is. So I can understand where he's coming from. But I think when you're looking at this game, you can't look in such short term. You can't look in 1 year, even 2 years. You got to look long term. And 1 week in the long term scheme of this game is nothing. And if that week means that it's going to roll out with less bugs and that it's going to be much smoother, then in my opinion, that's well worth it.
I'm in 100% agreement with you, Get Flanked, but I understand and sympathize with viewers. Like it's been over like 200 days since we got new content, like actually new, like feasible content with that. But with that being said, is just 1 week enough for them to fix all the bugs? Because like Velvet Shell came out a mess and you couldn't play it for 2 weeks. So is that technical test server enough time for people to test it for all platforms?
I guess we'll find out. I mean, I think coming off of Operation Health, them delaying this took some balls on their part, for lack of a better word. But what would have been more disgraceful for them to back it up for a week, or for them to roll it out with a bunch of bugs? Coming off of Operation Health, if they release this patch with a bunch of bugs in it, that is going to be very harmful. So I understand this decision.
Yeah. It's definitely something that's important to do because, I mean, as you were sort of mentioning a little bit with Velvet Shell, I mean, do you remember how broken it was when Mira came out and everybody knew you could just melee the other side of the window and completely break it from the outside, and this operator basically served not only no point, but was actually a hindrance.
Yes.
And that just completely broke it, and then it was like that for a month before they were able to deal with fixing that. Now, I'm not entirely sure if we see anything similar with, and there's 3 operators now instead of 2, so it's like, 33% more chance for something to go wrong there. But if they have something, and Nukem, to your point, is a week necessarily enough time to respond to that issue? And I would put forth that on PC, yes, but I don't know if that saves console players because these patches and these updates and changes have to go through Microsoft and Sony certification. I hope, but I'm not sure if that's enough time for them to do anything for the console side of things.
Yeah, I personally don't think. I think console needs 2 or 3 weeks for like a major patch for certification purpose, and then they need. And I don't know if is the rollback system available in console yet.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so even if, like, let's say the rollback system's not part of Operation Help's like, hey, we launched a new patch, it broke the game, we can go back to a previous patch. So if they launched the DLC and they have to roll back to a non-DLC, oh my god, I don't even want to think about that.
Well, I mean, here's the other option though. Let's say that they test it for a week and they find that there is a bug. I mean, are they going to release it with that known bug on the consoles? That's the only. Those are the two options that you'll find there. If that is actually something, I think what they're probably doing. I don't think they're testing big picture here. I think they're testing maybe a couple of little tweaks because supposedly there's over 1,000 bug fixes in this, and maybe there's a couple little things here and there that they're testing and really looking at. But they feel like they have the big picture things right.
Well, what is it too that it seems like across the three platforms? Is it just me, or does it seem like PS4 users seem to get the most problems and hiccups and glitches on their end? I mean, does the TTS necessarily even address that? Because there's something specific to the platform that seems to be happening there.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I agree with what you're saying. I don't know why. Maybe it's because clearly PC is a focus, and the Pro League used to be on Xbox, so those were like the two main focuses at a time, and PS4 was kind of on the back burner. I don't know other than that.
I don't know. I think it's something with the PS4 platform because it's been like that since day one of the game and still now. It's always like PS4. I remember the last patch for the alpha packs. I had to have a patch for my patch because that patch broke that patch. So they patched the patch before I could get the update. And PS4 was the first one to go down maintenance for the patch for that. Well, the thing is, like, PC is the smallest player base based on what I talked to Ubisoft, and PS4 is the biggest player base, then it's Xbox, then PC. So it's interesting. I feel like it has to be with the PS4 unit or something with it.
You're probably right. I'd love to see those numbers because I've always wondered that, and I just imagine that PS4 is biggest because it's sold the most, and I can tell just from playing that PC doesn't have the same numbers as PS4. So that's cool to hear you actually confirm that.
Yeah. That being said, would you like to move on to the map removal?
Oh boy, the big
this is a fun one.
500-pound gorilla in the room, right?
Oh yeah.
So
the hottest debate in the world.
Right, totally. So the biggest news, of course, this week, well, I mean, outside of finding out what the new operators do, is that Ubisoft has made some changes going forward in this season as well as consecutive seasons to what they're doing for map rotations, and frankly, removal too. So on the Ubisoft developer blog, they released some information that said that starting with this season, they were going to be mirroring the ranked playlist so that it matched the ESL Pro League playlist. So there are going to be 9 maps only in ranked. So that's Bank, Clubhouse, Oregon, Cafe, Consulate, Chalet, Border, Coastline, and Skyscraper. And anything outside of that you will not be seeing in ranked this season, including the new map. And then the other change that they're making is that the casual playlist is going to be restricted to 15 maps. Not necessarily the hugest deal in one way because there's currently only 16 maps in the game. Theme Park will become the 17th map, so you're only losing out on 2 maps, and those will be Favela and Yacht that they're taking out of the rotation. But obviously, as the seasons go on, if they're keeping it to 15, then that's more and more maps as time goes on that will be excluded from this list. And that's just something that's sort of like rocking the community foundation to its core right now, this debate about having content removed. And they are saying that some of this is going to be removed to be worked on and then put back in. And they're saying some of it will be removed just like gone from the game, and it just depends. That's not happening this season. They're removing to work on. But in future seasons, they are saying that there are plans, at least at this point, to make some of these removals permanent. So what do you guys think about this?
I want to add one thing. I think on the notes it says you can still play the removed maps from the game in custom matches, right?
This season.
Oh, this season. Okay.
Yes, this season. But going forward, and here I have it on screen. I will read it right now. It says they're quickly approaching the limit of their data sizes, and this will require a rework of how our maps are stored. As a result, we are currently planning on removing maps from the game entirely down the road, but not yet in Season 3.
Okay. I'll let Flink go on that one.
I mean, again, I think we have to look at this long term. Okay, so let's say this game's been out for 4 years. They release 4 new maps every year. at that point you're going to have what, 40 maps? You know what I don't know. That's probably bad math, but I'm saying at some point they're going to have to trim the maps, because one of the biggest things with this game is that it's not. Some people will say that it's not new player friendly, and in my opinion, the biggest thing that separates a new player from the player who's been playing this game for the last 2 years, year and a half, is map knowledge. So if you've got 30 maps, let's say 30 maps that a new player playing this game for the first time has to learn, that is going to be extremely difficult. So this was coming at some point. Okay, they naturally should trim maps that maybe don't have the most, that aren't the best, that don't have the best balance, and keep the maps that are the best and provide the best gameplay in the rotation. I completely agree with this decision, especially on the ranked side of it. No brainer. The ranked playlist, in my opinion, should be the Pro League maps. Now I understand that a lot of people like House. Okay, I have a spot on House that I use with Pulse that I just destroy people with. So it wasn't like I hated House, but I do understand that that map doesn't provide the best balance. So whenever I'm playing ranked and I'm playing serious in ranked, I want to play the most balanced maps. And the Pro League maps are, in my opinion, the most balanced. As far as them removing Favela and Yacht from casual, again, I think it's the right decision, because I think that you have to think of all different aspects. Maybe there's something on those two maps with the new operators coming that provided that was just overpowered. Like maybe one of their traps in a certain hallway just made it to where you couldn't see it or couldn't come down that hallway at all. You have to think about all that stuff. So it could be something like that is the reason that they removed those two maps. And I just can't believe how crazy everybody's going about it. I mean, Ubisoft doesn't want to remove content. It's not like they're sitting back there like, these people just have way too much content. We need to take some of that away. They're not saying that. I think they've proven time and time again that they're looking out for the best interest of the game, and they're trying to provide us with the best product that they can. So I don't see the big problem here. I really don't.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a completely different spin on this. And that is, okay, so when you're talking about mirroring the ESL list to ranked, okay, I understand why at a highly competitive level that is something that you would want to do for balance sake and for keeping the maps that are in that pool. But if somebody wants to play ranked and they're not necessarily a super competitive player, but they like the ranked rules, they like maybe they like the shorter timer, maybe they like the fact that they can choose their spawns on defense or their spawns on attack, you know, just the way that things are a little different. Maybe they just enjoy pursuing a rank within, I mean, low ranks, you know, silvers, coppers, bronzes, even golds, like to be able to play against people of a similar skill set. And even in casual, you don't necessarily get matched evenly until you've kind of got that rank within your bracket. So there's a case for a lot of non-competitive people to still be playing ranked. And those people are losing over half the content in the game. When you play ranked now, you are actually playing less maps than were available when the game first launched. And I always think it's a bad thing to remove content, or in this case, talking about ranked, restricting access to content for the people. A position that a lot of people have is, of course, well, you know, I paid for the season pass and I'm not getting my maps. Well, to be absolutely clear on that, the season pass has nothing to do with maps, so that isn't even a valid argument. But the argument that can be made is that the incentive for buying, like, the game itself in the first place, the $60 investment for the game, is that you had these maps that were in the base game, and some of these base game maps are being taken out. Again, it's like half the maps in the game right now. And as the years go by and new maps come out, that number's only going to get bigger. But also, you know, whether or not you bought the season pass, you were told that as part of the DLC roadmap, you get one free map each season, 4 seasons in a year. So those people, again, you know, that's not necessarily part of the season pass, but in choosing to invest in this game as a concept, support it with microtransactions, what have you, I can understand why some people are feeling ripped off. Getting into the casual side of things, I think it's even a stronger argument to not restrict access for the people that are playing the game. Now, I think you made a good point, Flint, that maybe they tested something and they're like, wow, on House, when you put Ella's Mine, or I'm sorry, not House, Favela, when you put Ella's Mine in this one spot, it just destroys, and it's not balanced at all, so we got to rework that. And maybe there's something to that. We don't actually know if that's behind it or not. Frankly, we're just guessing. But I think that just removing these maps entirely is not the way to go. Now, in this case, they said these particular maps, Favela and Yacht, are being removed and being reworked, and the idea is to re-implement them back into the game at some point. But I think that you can rework a map by doing that and then updating it later without removing it necessarily. And the other thing is that by keeping it to this, I mean, Ubisoft here, let me actually read this. They said their reason for doing this was that they have identified the steep learning curve that our new players face in terms of map knowledge, and this is one of the ways that we plan to address it. You know, when you look at some other games like Call of Duty and stuff like this, so to your point, you're saying like 30, 40 maps. I mean, they come out with 4 map packs of 4 maps each, which is 16 additional maps to the game in the course of 1 year. Plus their base game has like 15 or 16 maps in it, you know, depending on the Call of Duty title. So they have 30 maps that they're playing and new players are being exposed to, and why can't that be the case here? I don't know. What do you think?
Can I rebuttal that real quick?
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you're looking at a Call of Duty map, you're basically learning paths, okay? When you're learning a Rainbow Six Siege map, you're learning every inch of that map. So the destructible environment is another variable that's involved in every single map. The fact that the lines of sight, everything, like you can play a Rainbow Six Siege map 100 times and still learn new things every single day. You play a Call of Duty map 100 times, you're going to know that map pretty much inside out. You might pick up something every once in a while, but learning a Call of Duty map versus a Rainbow Six Siege map are 2 completely different things, in my opinion.
That's a fair point.
Okay, I am actually split 50-50 with both of you on both this. As a competitive player, you know, being high platinum and diamond for every single season, we always get pissed off when we see favelas, house, yacht. Like that's the biggest thing. And I feel like when you play competitive, you want it to mirror ESL because that's the only reason why you want to play ranked. Then if people who want to say, hey, let's have a little different game mode with a different timer, that'll be like a whole different game. So I feel like ranked has to be specified because you're trying to move up your rank or get your rank, and that's the competitive level of it. And for casual, I think it's a good idea to limit the map to 15 and rotate maps in every season. Just not remove a map completely from the game, but it's like, hey, this upcoming season we'll have these 15 maps for casual. These got removed. They'll be introduced at a later season, at a later point in time, and we're going to rework it and be exciting. It's like, hey, it's coming back. Here's a trailer of the new reworked map, and this is going to be in casual and ranked in the next season. But I don't like the idea of removing everything there, but I think 15 maps for casual, like once you get to like 20, 30, you eventually never see a map in casual. It's all like roll of dice, and you can't have a Call of Duty function the way Rainbow Six is made up, like, hey, choose the next 3 map while you're waiting in lobby. The game just doesn't work like that. And like you said, I can find out a Call of Duty game map within like the first couple games that I know like all the in and outs, where Rainbow Six Siege is so tight knit on it. So I think it's good to limit it, but rotate maps in every season.
So what happens, and okay, so now when we go into this season with the addition of Theme Park, we'll have 17 maps. So it's like, okay, you're losing 2 maps, whatever, you could make that argument. But what happens when, so their long-term game plan is 50 to 100 operators, they said. Now, going at 8 operators a year, you can figure that out. If they go to 50, it's about a 5-year plan. If they go to 100, it's about a 10-year plan for support of this game. So with new maps coming out at that rate, if you're only going to be having 15 every season, so every 3 months, you're going to have to get a new set of maps in. How many of those maps are you not going to see after, again, right now, not the biggest impact. But talk to me in another year and a half when we have so many more maps, or a year after that when they're on year 4 and they've gone to a 5 to a 10-year support plan for this game. How many maps are you just going like a half a year, 3/4 of a year without even seeing? Restricting that access is, I think, from a consumer standpoint, crap. Why not introduce like a vote system? Like you had just mentioned, you didn't think, Newcomb, that a Call of Duty vote map system would work. I'm curious why you'd think that would be the case.
No, I would love it for this game.
Oh, okay.
But the way the game's built, you can't do it. It's like bringing squad with me. It's like every time you finish the game, it's like finding a new lobby. It's not like you're waiting in one lobby and it's on one server and just rotating through that server. It's like it's a whole different style. If they can somehow do it, then I'm so up for it.
What do you think about that, Flank?
the map vote system would be awesome. I think it could be done. It would just require like Newcomb's saying there, a little bit of a rework. I get what you're saying with over time. This is going to be a bigger deal than it is right now, and that's certainly a fair point. But the way that I look at that is over time, the more maps that are introduced, eventually we're going to end up with maybe 15 to 20 really good maps because they're going to be whittled down over time, and the ones that aren't balanced will be kicked out, and the ones that have the good balance will be kept in. That's the way I look at it, personally.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because I see all the YouTubers are all like posting on Twitter saying they support it, and it seems like more the casual players are, from just generally speaking, is against it. I don't know what you guys think about it.
I think that is a very accurate sentiment of what's going on in the community right now. I mean, I think one thing that would be good is to leave casual more or less alone and introduce a map voting system where, it would say like maybe it'd be map and mode or something like that, but just have like two options and then a random if one of them isn't picked or something like that. So that way that players in that pool can influence it still. But then for ranked, I understand why people like the limiting it to 9 and having very properly balanced maps. But I also understand why people that do play ranked aren't necessarily all trying to be pro players. Aren't necessarily trying to be super competitive tryhards. So I think that to maybe to appease both angles on that, to maybe have like a ranked playlist and a pro ranked playlist or something like that. Now people are like, oh, that'll fracture the community and matchmaking is going to suck and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I don't know how else you really appease both parties.
I agree that like not everybody who plays ranked is obviously super competitive. I agree with that, but at the same time, I feel like maybe that should be the goal. Okay, so if you've got a player who dabbles in ranked, if we can get that player to the point where they are going in a custom match to learn camera locations, to learn lines of sight, and stuff like that, I think it's fair to say that that player is going to be playing this game more and for a longer period of time than the guy who isn't willing to put that type of work into the game. So for me, limiting the amount of maps gives that player more of a reward, because I know for me, playing with my team, we might go in and learn a map and learn a strat on an objective. We might go into ranked and we might not see that map for 2 or 3 days. So then we forget everything. And this way, I feel like if you can narrow down on the field that you're playing on, you can be more specific and allow people to be rewarded more for taking the game more serious. And I think that's a good thing for player retention.
Well,
that's a fair point.
There's something that I think we should discuss that we mentioned earlier is like, what we think about theme park. The only way you can play it is through casual or custom matches, and you can't really play in ranked. And Ubisoft made a good point about why they're not putting in ranked, because new map comes out, people are going to find exploits, they're going to find glitches, they're going to find boosting spots where it breaks the competitive nature of the game. So what do you guys think?
I think that you need, if you're not going to put it in ranked, in my opinion, you should have a theme park 24/7 playlist. And I know that depends on player count, but like, okay, so if I'm playing it in casual, you can either have a theme park 24/7 playlist, or you can have a really, really high rate of theme park in casual.
That's what they do in the beginning of new DLC.
Sure. I mean, maybe even a little bit higher than what they normally do. That would be my suggestion, but
I think the problem that a lot of people have pointed out so far, and I can completely see where they're coming from, is they're afraid that if it's not available in ranked, and ranked is sort of a place for the super competitive people to go to get their game on. If the new map, I mean, everybody wants to try the new map, of course. So if the really competitive tryhards can't get it in ranked, they're gonna come into casual. And then the people that don't play ranked because they're trying to avoid all the competitiveness are just going to get slaughtered by those competitive people anyway. And this is a sentiment I've seen expressed online by a lot of people, and I see their point.
Isn't casual based off of your rank skill, though?
It is if you have a rank, but if you don't have a rank, like if you haven't hit your 10 matches yet, or if you just don't play it in the first place, it tries to base it off of other factors. But like, I've played unranked before and then still been matched up against plats and silvers in the same match. So it's kind of inconsistent.
I understand that sentiment there, that people are concerned of the higher competition in casual. But I guess my question to you guys is, like, if I'm playing in casual and I'm new to this game and I see somebody who just comes in and destroys the lobby, that makes me want to play the game more, not less. And that... it makes me want to get better. I'm going to spend more time to get to that level. Like, I know that not everybody's that way, But I guess that's my mindset when it comes to video games or just anything really. If I see somebody who's at a really high level, it makes me want to work harder to get to that level.
That's probably a perspective that a lot of people gold and up would have, but I think when you have like silvers and lowers, they would probably have pretty much the opposite reaction to that. So I think it really depends on your skill set and where you land in there. So if somebody feels like they're being pub stomped, that's just not going to be an enjoyable experience. While it might inspire some, it's going to really frustrate others.
I think a lot of people will quit because if you just get rolled and it's like, oh, I died. Oh, it's because you got spawn peek. You have to check the windows. Oh, you died. You didn't check the floor when you jumped in. Oh, you died because you didn't check about the captain trap by the door. Oh, you died. Oh, because there's a kill hole right there. I'll get so pissed off. I mean, this game is already hard for casual and free to play. The game does not do a good job explaining this game to you, even with situations. Kind of dabs your feet in the water.
I've really liked what you guys were talking about in the last show with Gregor. He had an idea with custom games there that I thought was a really good idea. I think at some point this game's going to have to introduce some type of different game mode or something. And I think maybe that's the way to make this game a little bit more new player friendly, in my opinion. I'd like to see them do something where you can pick any operator, offense or defense, and you could have 5 of the same operator on a team. You can play the same game mode. It's just going to be something kind of crazy like that. That's how I see you catering to the new player a little bit better than compressing the skill gap, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh. Well, it's been official based on a lot of people said in Gamescom, and I can publicly talk about this. The ACOG has officially been removed from Bandit and Jaeger's gun. How do you feel about that, Gitflanks?
Well, the first thing I got to say, which put your tinfoil hat on, conspiracy theory here, but did anybody notice that they offered the Jaeger and Bandit bundle right before they removed the ACOG?
Get the fuck!
I mean, I think that maybe they expect the ACOG to limit their selection. I'm kind of torn on it. I think I do see where they're coming from. Jaeger and Bandit have a very high pick rate. If you look at competitive play on the defense side, there's very little variation in the operators that are selected. I mean, Bandit has one of the best gadgets in the game, and he doesn't necessarily need an ACOG. I don't think this is going to affect his pick rate at all. It's just going to make him a little less effective in certain situations. But where it annoyed me a little bit is when everybody takes it back to spawn peeking and stuff. And I really don't feel like that's the case. First of all, you've never been spawn peeked by a Caveira with a red dot. No, I mean, that you're still going to get spawn peeked. It's still going to be a thing in the game, whether they're using a reflex or an ACOG. But it is going to limit that defender's capability to hold a line of sight. There's no doubt about that. And that is, when you get a little bit to the higher levels, that is kind of the name of the game. The ACOG rules supreme for most players. So I hope they know what they're doing. I think that they do. They've shown in the past that they can tweak the meta of this game and make good changes, and I'm hoping this is the case. But I'm curious to see how this is going to play out.
It is interesting because they tend to have a thing where they will make a buff or a nerf to an operator or maybe an attachment class like the SMG-11 with the ACOG or things like that, and they'll sort of like go almost too far with it, and then they'll double down to bring it back again. I mean, we see that. Yeah, right. Pulse. I mean, how many other examples of that have we seen in these shotguns? Whatever it might be. It's like they're like, okay, we're gonna make this change. Oh, that was too far. Instead of going back to the middle and splitting the difference, they're like, now we're gonna go the extreme the other direction. I hope that doesn't play out here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they know what they're doing. In Ubisoft, I trust until they give me a reason not to. I absolutely love playing this game, and yes, it's not perfect, but there's no game that's ever grabbed a hold of me like this before. So until they give me a reason not to, I'm going to take what they do, and I'm going to at least give it an open mind and give it a try until they prove me wrong otherwise.
I feel like I can hear a bunch of people on Reddit or fans yelling, they lied to us and proved you wrong so many times.
Well, but, I mean, they're clearly doing something right. I mean, yeah. the metric of this game as far as growth and how it appeals to people is they're clearly doing something right. Yeah. I mean, you can't argue that. And this isn't an easy swallow game. An easy to swallow game. The fact that this game is as popular as it is really amazes me, in all honesty. There's no campaign. It's a very narrow game, so I trust in that
Yeah, they are doing some right. I think this is the only game, AAA game, that keeps going up in player count and sales versus every single company goes down after the launch of a game. So they do have something gold in hand. They know it. I think they just need to put a lot more resource into it. But anyways, Get Flanked, thank you so much for coming to the Siege Report this week. If anyone wants to check out your content, how can they find you?
Obviously on YouTube, if you type in the search bar, get_flanked, I should be the first channel that comes up. I'm pretty sure I am. So you can find me there. I stream on YouTube as well. I'm one of the few people to do that still, I think. And on Twitter, @get_flanked. I'm always happy to have fun in there. So
awesome. Anyways, thank you guys for coming so much. If you guys have any people in the community you would love to be on the Siege Report, contact them, tweet them, and have them contact me, and we'll try to get them in. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.